Bam! Bam! Do you know who that word belongs to? Emeril Lagasse. So popular that we just call him Emeril. And we know Bam belongs to him. But what you might not know is that he may not have become the internationally renowned chef that we all have grown to love if he had followed what was his big gift, music. He was offered a full-ride scholarship to the New England Conservatory of Music after graduating high school. But lucky for us, he turned it down to pursue a life of a chef. You can maybe imagine his parents' disappointing faces after he made that announcement. But he was meant to cook, he was meant to feed others, he was meant to wow. I had the honor of meeting Emeril when I was a TV news reporter in Nashville, Tennessee. He was visiting our station, it was a CBS-owned station there, to tape a piece with one of our magazine shows. But it was early in the morning, it was before my reporter shift started. But I thought, I've got to get down there, because if there's one person who possibly loves loves Emeril more than her children, it's my mother. And I thought, I'm going home for Easter this year, I want to bring her a special gift. So I went in early to meet Emeril, just say hello, see what I could find. He was charming, he was sweet, and when I told him about my mother, he said, oh, we've got to take some pictures, which was a bonus for me, because you cannot even believe when she opened up that framed picture of Emeril and me, you would have thought it was a 10-carat diamond. She squealed like a little girl. She was so happy because she got to experience the wow that is Emeril. So what does this brush with the king of the Big Easy show us? Emeril's wow and his ability to succeed in his field, his ability to inspire, really helps us know that he owns his wow. So close your eyes for a moment and think about others who are really impressive figures to you, who own their wow. Maybe it's Bill Gates, maybe it's the Dalai Lama, maybe it's Lady Gaga. You can open your eyes. What is it about them? You know what? It's not rocket science. They own their space. They found their space. And then they set on a course, on a journey, to really own that space. Because before you can own your wow, you really need to know what it is, and then you need to own that space. Take, for example, Patti LaBelle. Have you heard of her? She's been making music for more than 50 years. First with a group, the group that brought us Lady Marmalade in 1970. Some of you weren't even born yet. And then later on her own to maybe even bigger wows. In 2005, she was honored with a Legends Award. And in October 2014, her wow takes her to TV, and she's in the new season of American Horror Story. Kind of a far cry from Motown of the 70s and 80s, wouldn't you say? I had the thrill of meeting Patti LaBelle in 2006. I was a reporter in Detroit TV. I can even tell you what day of the week it was. But by this time, 10 years into my career as a reporter, I had interviewed thousands of people. No one really impressed me anymore. No one really intimidated me. But let me tell you, I was kind of excited to interview Patti LaBelle. We were about this close to one another. I could see those long eyelashes weren't really hers, if you know what I mean. But she was stunning. She was beautiful, and she just had this light. She owned her wow. The awards are great, but you just saw it coming from the inside. And what's so spectacular about people like this is that they make us want to have a little piece of that. Sometimes you don't know what your space is, though. Sometimes your space finds you. And boy, I hope you're awake to take notice. That's what happened to Malala Yousafzai. Remember her? She just got named the recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, 17 years old. Hard to believe that someone so young could have this wow. 2 years and a day prior to receiving this award, she was shot in the head by a Taliban assailant set out to assassinate her for speaking out on behalf of educating girls. But that injury, that near-death experience, didn't make her give up on herself, on life, or fighting for education for girls in her home country of Pakistan. And then in the brilliance of the Nobel Committee, they decided to give the Peace Award this year to 2 people. The other person who shared it with Malala is an Indian man who's fighting to empower children and end child labor in India. 2 citizens from 2 countries who have been sparring for nearly 70 years. So that, I can tell you, that's a pair I'd want to interview on my radio show. And in the brilliance of the Swedish Nobel Committee, to do something like that, to even just position the Peace Prize in 2014 in that way, that is a wow. So someone who I did get to interview a few months ago on my show is on the short list of my girl crushes. She's Arianna Huffington, and I worked for months to get this interview. And it was scheduled for Father's Day, 2014. I prepared like you wouldn't believe. They sent me her 14th book called Thrive. I don't know if you've read it. And I was ready because I wanted to make the most of this extraordinary opportunity. And it was really terrific. Arianna was spectacular with that signature accent of hers. She was funny, graceful, yet authoritative. She was a wow. All of those things, a winning combination. And I was really honored that I got to do that. One of the things you'll notice as you're admiring others who own their wow is that you really get in touch with your own wow. You really get a good perception of what it means, what it could look like, what it does look like. And in my life as a reporter, my past life as a reporter, I came to find out early on that my passion was for the interview. I loved the interview. So in learning the interview, I started studying others who did it well. I started studying other performances. And you hear life is in the detail. Expertise is in the nuances. Owning your wow, that's where the nuances are. The nuances live in that wow. So sometimes you get that opportunity to meet an icon. And sometimes that icon you have to talk to on tape. And that experience happened to me just a few days ago, folks, when I had the opportunity to not interview a quote-unquote regular person, but to interview one of those icons, Madeleine Albright. In 1997, she was the first woman to be named United States Secretary of State, and at the time was the most powerful ranking woman in United States history. Pretty amazing, huh? You think I was a little nervous? And I have to tell you, I love live. I love live radio, live TV. So interviewing Madeleine Albright on tape, yes, we were talking live, but the actual interview will air tomorrow on my radio show, so I hope you tune in. And I needed to make sure that every minute that I had with her on the phone would count. So I had to ask every question and be careful with every word. And then eventually it was going to be edited to fit into a segment locked into my show tomorrow. But you can imagine from the first moment I said, "Hello, Secretary Albright, thanks for joining me," and hearing her response, I was in awe. She was just that kind of person. Really amazing responses. And I wound down by asking her what she does for fun. Yeah, I asked this former Secretary of State, what do you do for fun? And it was amazing in her wowness of everything she does for the world. I think I took her off guard because she kind of came back with things that we're sort of used to seeing her do. You didn't hear her talking about gardening or knitting or taking a yoga class. But eventually she did say that when there's time, she likes to spend it with her grandchildren. So that was nice. No matter what anyone says, she is human. Now, sometimes your wow may mean everyone of humankind might be against you. Do you remember Steve Forbes? He ran for president a couple times. You might have heard of Forbes magazine or the Forbes empire. Well, he was in Minneapolis just a few days ago, and I went to check him out at a lunchtime keynote. And you might not think that a talk about monetary policy is going to be that funny or interesting, but he actually used humor well. One of my favorite quotes from Steve Forbes was when he said, "You don't have to go to the Amazon to find crawling creatures. You can find plenty of them in the US tax code." And that, of course, made everybody laugh. But he went on to talk about how current policymakers and current leaders are leading the world into a social and economic catastrophe. I was like, wow, this is big stuff. I'm glad I've already eaten my lunch today here at this luncheon. But you can imagine how a lot of times when you hear words like that from someone in that position or even someone in a lower position, it doesn't sit very well with people. But that's the thing. When you really own your wow, you can't always care what others think. If you've bothered to investigate the details and uncover and discover all the nuances, and you feel that you have a solid, sound argument, then stick with your beliefs. That's what life is, right? That's what owning your wow is hanging out and sticking with your beliefs, even if 99 out of 100 people are against you. One of those people who never had a problem sticking with his beliefs was the late Senator Wellstone. Remember him? Well, when his plane went down in 2002, it definitely changed in an election cycle. It affected a state and probably the whole United States. And some even say that his death led to the United States going into Iraq the next year. If he hadn't died, maybe we wouldn't have done that. We'll never know. Well, that date in October 2002 sticks in my mind because it was exactly 10 days after I started my reporting job for a TV station in Minneapolis, my home market. Wow. I remember where I was when we got the call. I remember the interview that I got sent out to do. But I also remember being on the campaign trail covering Sheila and Paul Wellstone and having conversations with them in happier times, pre-crash. Who would have thought, right? Who would have thought? He really had these ethics and integrity that's kind of lacking in today's leadership landscape, wouldn't you say? Perhaps his legacy means we try to find that space again. Well, on a lighter note, I want to talk about someone who is loved the world over. Yep, his magic, many an imposter has tried to duplicate. He's the master of many masters in owning his space, and he is Mickey Mouse. Yep. Came on the scene in 1928, went on to star in 130 films, no stranger to TV, print media. He greets people at the theme parks. You know, it's amazing what a mouse with no shirt wearing big red shoes can do. Turns out, he's done a lot for the world. So if you're wondering, how do I own my space? Guess what? Let Mickey inspire you. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to have power over a nation. All you have to do is to shine your light, to know what your space is and shine that light and do it authentically, really showcase your nuances and own your wow. Thanks so much.